Welcome back to the Gentleman's Gazette. In today's video, I'll be ranking watch brands, and if you're a regular follower, you know that I'm not the biggest watch expert. And so I brought in Federico from Federico Talks Watches. Thank you for coming.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So it's going to be fun to see what the rating is going to work out to be. Normally, Nathan is here, and he's an absolute watch nerd. But he already did some videos with Federico, and you can check it out on his channel or on our channel. So without further ado, let's get rolling.
Rolex, solid C+.
I'd rank it like a B in terms of like brand recognition, value, but...
Well, if we're talking about value and brand recognition, it's an A. But if we're talking about watchmaking and quality product, which is something you love to talk about at the Gentleman's Gazette, it's a C, in my humble opinion. Like a solid, like unspectacular, middle-of-the-road luxury watch.
Next up is Patek Philippe. Honestly, I think in the watch world and the watchmaking, right, the big three, I'd say it's probably an A.
I would agree. I would say A, potentially A-, because there's a couple of crazy independents that might be a little bit higher, but definitely A.
Audemars Piguet. What do you think?
Audemars Piguet. So, it's part of the Holy Trinity. A lot of people would put it in the A category. Me being a little biased, I don't love a lot of their chunkier, more modern models. I'd say a B+.
I mean, I'm firmly convinced that the Nautilus from Patek Philippe and the Royal Oak, people wouldn't love these watches if there wasn't a hype around them. I'm a firm believer that people just like them because they're expensive. At least when I look at them, I'm like, ooh, not a watch that I would want to wear.
Fair enough.
But I think, yeah, the Holy Trinity, I would have guessed that you would rank them between A and B somewhere.
Yeah, B+ is what I would say.
Okay, that's fair.
B+.
Next up, A.Lange Söhne. I mean, as a German, I think the prestige and the cachet they carry is definitely more in the A range.
A.Lange Söhne is an A all the way.
Okay, nice.
All the way.
Omega. Well, if I ask Nathan, he probably puts them in the A range, maybe A-, B+, I would guess. So I'd say B+.
You know, I think it's an awesome watch. I think you get a lot of value for money. But if I'm ranking it solely based on quality and craftsmanship, then they're right there with Rolex. So I'd say a C.
In terms of if you consider value,
I mean, value, it gets better. Value, I'd put them solidly in the B+, but solely on craftsmanship and quality, it's on par with Rolex. It's a C. It's just priced better than Rolex.
Next up, Jaeger-LeCoultre, JLC. They always call like the watchmaker's watchmaker, right? I got that right? So let's say A-, maybe B+.
JLC, definitely a B+ in my book. I can't quite put them with A.Lange Söhne and Patek Philippe, but, you know, value-wise, A+, quality, craftsmanship, everything overall, solid B.
IWC Schaffhausen.
For my American viewers, it's IWC Schaffhausen. So this is an interesting brand because it's very prestigious, great history. Lately, their quality is better, more in-house movements, but previously massively overpriced. I'm torn between a C+ and a B-, somewhere very much in between there.
In that range. Let's talk Cartier watches. That's a hard one because there's like the Crash, the Tank, the Santosh Dumont.
It's very hard because Cartier makes a wide range of products from quartz models that are an F to Cartier's super fine watchmaking, which is an A. But I would say if we have to take the brand as a whole, B-. Design, A+, but everything together, B-.
Yeah, design, I would say like it's really iconic. And I mean, yes, they have quartz models, which tell time more accurately than mechanical
Sure.
watches, right?
Absolutely.
That's not what it's about
No,
in a
it's,
watch
it's
world.
not at all. It's only one of the minimal factors.
Yeah, customer service, Cartier, in my experience, not that great. I don't know what your experience is.
So I actually used to work for Cartier. We talked about your story last night. You know, I think that in the boutiques, they do a very good job. You were trying to deal with their online concierge.
Yeah, horrible experience online.
I think these brands just don't know how the internet works. I mean, they make mechanical watches,
Yeah.
you know, technology from the 1700s. So I wouldn't judge them based solely on that one experience, but you know, maybe there's some room for improvement.
Next up, Nordgreen. Frankly, I have no idea what those watches look like. I've never seen them.
Who?
Nordgreen.
Nordgreen?
Nordgreen. Well, maybe you know that next one, Vacheron Constantin.
Vacheron Constantin. Talk about awful customer service. I've had a watch in repair for 3 months. I still don't have an estimate yet. And then when they called me, because I thought they were going to apologize, they told me it was my fault because I filled out the paperwork wrong. That being said, just because they don't know how to treat people, B-, but without that experience, B+.
Next up, Montblanc watches. If you don't know it already, but I started my journey into classic style with fountain pens, and Montblanc was a part of that. I bought them and sold them, got a pair of cufflinks. Then I learned about French cuff shirts and about clothing, and that's how I started. And I was around when they didn't have watches, and then they introduced them.
Yeah.
I think it's probably hard to break into that watch market, even though it's Swiss made.
It takes decades.
I would guess, that, I don't know if there are any good watches. I would guess they're more for like brand horse. What's your rating?
So this is funny because it's a brand that's actually evolved and put in the work. So if you asked me this question 10 years ago, solid D- fashion brand, but they bought the Minerva factory, which is a factory that's famous for their chronographs. They make some very high-end complications and in-house movements. However, if we take their slow start and the fact that it's going to take decades, I'm going to put them at a C- and getting better every year.
Interesting. Yeah, I would have not known how to rank them.
It's a tough one, but they are getting better.
Next up, a brand is Chopard. I never owned a Chopard watch, but to me, I would associate it more with like something cheaper. I would guess it's more in the D range.
So Chopard is a Jekyll and Hyde brand. They make everything from the massively overpriced ladies' watches to the just okay racing-inspired Mille Miglia to some of my favorite watches in the world, which is the LUC Chopard high-end.
Okay.
Once again, if we have to take all of this into account, C-, but it's really a product line that goes from F to B.
Wow. Okay.
But overall, C-.
Piaget. And I had that story where a family friend, she bought a Piaget ladies watch, and then she kind of had it appraised. And when the appraiser heard what she paid, she's like, yeah, you just want to keep it. What I've seen from men is actually something I like stylistically, right? The Altiplano was really thin.
Yes.
But I think overall in the watch market, I would guess that because of its thinness, it must be a nice movement, right? I personally like the look of them, so my ranking would be more like B+, A-. But what's your take?
So I actually used to work for Piaget, so I know quite a bit about the brand. A very prestigious movement maker. Their movements were used by Vacheron Constantin, IWC, Cartier. However, a mess on the business side. They don't know how to sell or market watches. This is a very tough one for me. My heart says a B. My brain says a C.
Okay.
So let's say C.
Blancpain. I've never had a watch really. I've seen the brand name. I think when I heard about it first, it seemed like it was more respected in the watch world than I would have guessed it was.
It's very respected, but it's one of those brands that it went out of business for over 100 years and was reintroduced in the 80s. They do make a very good watch. B-. B- for me.
Ulysse Nardin. That seems to be more like a I don't know, I want to say wannabe brand, but my perception would be more of a like D.
So here's the thing, these guys are the kings of when they try, they actually make something very special, but they very rarely try. C-.
So what's an example of when they tried?
When they tried the Ulysse Nardin Freak, which is not the most beautiful watch, but mechanically the whole movement would rotate on an axis, so the movement would spin along with the hands, which is crazy. But then you also have just a bunch of dive watches for $7,000 with a $300 ETA off-the-shelf movement. They're capable, they really are, but too little too late.
Okay.
In my opinion.
I think for a black tie ensemble, there's this brand called Corum with that very special movement that looks almost like a stick.
That's the Golden Bridge.
All right, Golden Bridge.
And Raphael, I know we talked about this yesterday. I actually like the Golden Bridge, and I like that you like something off the beaten path. And I like some of their extreme models, the bubble models with the crazy artwork. You know, once again, my heart says a B, but it's gotta be a D. You know, in reality, unfortunately.
Panerai. I would guess, you know, it's kind of a popular watch with younger men who may not like the Rolex. Personally, it seems to me like it's a bit overhyped, but what do I know?
So I own 3 of them. You know, I love them in their first surge of popularity, you know, back in the early 2000s, they were the cool watch, and that was my aspirational piece. I'm also Italian, I love the history, but I can't lie, you know, I'm not gonna lie about it. The movements, they're nothing special. All their watches look the same. They survive off limited editions. Even though I own 3 in my collection, D+.
All right.
Yeah, D+.
GP, Girard-Perregaux. In the other video we talked about where you showed me watches and I had to react. You had the rose gold Miami douchebag watch, correct?
That was my personal watch, yes sir.
So I would guess you'd rank it probably in a B territory.
So it's a brand that's massively underrated and undervalued and has an iconic model, very high quality. While a lot of people will disagree with me, having touched many of them, B-. I think it's a solid brand.
And now the one you've all been waiting for, Hublot. And I know that in the watch world they're hated. So my guess would be that you say it's somewhere between a D and an F. Personally, I don't like the designs. I don't know about the details, but that would be my guess.
So as much as I would love to say F, you know, they are relatively innovative. You know, sapphire cases, some interesting movements. It's just even when they innovate, it's the ugliest possible innovation ever innovated in watch history. So while I want to say F, I can't, but it's a D. It's a D.
See, what I'm surprised about is like, how can something that seems to have such a collective hate still be around and find a customer base?
Because the collective hate that you're seeing on YouTube is from watch guys like me, or maybe classic style gentlemen like you. We're very niche. You know, for the average wealthy gentleman that doesn't necessarily love watches or follow classic style,
Or watches YouTube.
It can be an attractive, I mean, it's bold, it's heavily advertised, and that's almost all you really need to create a hype brand, right? It's recognizable, and it's plastered in every billboard. So, you know, that's my opinion.
Okay. Bulgari watches. You know, Bulgari, when I see that, the brand, I think of like cheap perfume ads. So I would thoroughly put it more like in the D to F category.
So while you're not wrong, your answer is a little outdated because you don't follow the watch market necessarily.
I don't know.
In the past 10 years, there's been a very big push to bring Bulgari up back to a higher place in the watch industry because it used to be very popular in the 80s. So new models, new movements, new innovations. While I don't personally like their designs, they're ugly, they are doing some cool things. C-.
Okay.
But 8-9 years ago, solid DF.
Okay.
in my opinion.
Next up is German watch brand NOMOS Glashütte. Nathan said, it's a good beginner's watch brand. A lot of people like the simplistic Bauhaus design. My guess is like a B.
I would agree with you. Jaeger's also in B, but NOMOS makes the same grade just because their price point is so much lower. Fantastic first luxury watch.
So B, B minus?
B. Okay. Just for value, B, for sure.
Okay. Now we have Vincero watches. I would guess it's more of an F watch. Daniel Wellington territory?
Total garbage. Straight F. No, nothing to say. F.
LIV Watches? Never heard of them. It's probably very similar to
F.
F.
Department store, overpriced, $2 watch. F.
Got it. So next up is Breitling. I know you mentioned a Navitimer. So
I did.
I'd guess probably on a B to C range would be my guess.
I'd put them right there with Omega and Rolex. C. Mid-level sports watch. Little expensive.
Next up is Bremont.
Bremont is a British-based company that just got bought by a big Wall Street firm. Lots of faux heritage and lifestyle stuff. D minus.
Is it Bremont or Bremont?
It's Bremont, I believe. I mean, they're British brothers. They're innovating a little bit, but it's just not worth. Too many snafus as well. PR snafus. Just D minus. Pick one up pre-owned for 10 cents, 20 cents on the dollar.
Okay. Tag Heuer. I think they're a bit of a harder standing. I wouldn't know anything about it. My guess would be you put it in the C to D range.
So Tag would have been an F in the 90s. Great history, very bad 90s. They're getting better now, more in-house movements. I'd say D+, and getting better.
Baume Mercier. It's kind of interesting. It seems to be like a brand that is has more like homage watches, right? Like the tank watch and stuff like that.
So a brand that never really innovated. I actually love their designs. A brand owned by Richemont, but that is selling so poorly that Richemont fired all the Baume Mercier staff and gave it to a distributor. Richemont's never done that. I love them, but the reality is they're a D.
Rado watches. Kind of an interesting design language. I know that you can buy them fake, so there must be some market for them. No idea how you would
Huge
rank
market in Pakistan and India. Known for their ceramic watches. Apart from that, nothing special. D.
Maurice Lacroix.
An interesting brand that made everything from absolute garbage to some very nice watches. Their masterpiece collection, very high-end, is something they no longer make. Now they just have a homage watch to the Royal Oak. I'm going to go with a D.
Okay. Next up is Roger Dubuis. No idea. Never heard of watch, never seen it.
It's Richemont's Richard Mille. Very high-end watches, very expensive watches. They change design language entirely every 5 years because they can't sell them. Watchmaking, A+, as a brand, D.
F.P.Journe. I think they're more respected in the watch world. What do you think?
F.P.Journe is one of the highest end independent watches. Great horology, great everything apart from customer service. It's very hard to buy one brand new. They expect you to pay beforehand and they expect you to wait 3 years to deliver one. I've also heard some stories if the right people get the right things, you get one faster. Watchmaking, A++ as a brand, B-.
Okay.
Just for the games, don't play games.
Tiffany Co. Very iconic. My guess would be that watchmaking-wise, they're not at the top of the game.
Watchmaking-wise, they've made one extremely beautiful watch that I want to show you later because I think you'd like it. It's the East-West. Apart from that, D-.
But hey, blue box.
Blue box, it's true. You got the Tiffany blue box.
All right, next up, Louis Vuitton. I'd be surprised if it has anything higher than a D-.
Louis Vuitton is one of those brands highly on the rise. The Arnault family has invested heavily. They built the Fabrique du Temple, which is their new factory. While they're probably currently a D+, in the next 5 to 10 years, they're going to be a B-. They're really, you don't expect it, but they're doing big things.
Interesting.
Very.
Bamford. Never heard of them.
Not even a watch brand, just a company that covers watches in black paint or black whatever they call it.
Zenith. And people regard them highly?
They regard them highly. They made a fantastic chronograph movement, but they really haven't innovated for close to 70 years.
Okay.
Apart from recently, now they're starting to. But I would say B-.
Bell and Ross. To me, they seem more like a kind of fashion brand. Is that right?
They are a fashion brand invented by two kids in college who never pretended to make anything else but a fashion brand. I mean, they were very honest about it. We want a high quality watch that looks cool. Because of their honesty, they get a D+ instead of a D, but interesting looking watches.
Arnold and Son. Never heard of it.
British brand originally changed hands many times. I've never had good experiences with them. While they're very high end, in my experience, they always break. And because of that, I'm gonna give them a D+. Even though they would consider themselves probably a B.
But if they break, pointless.
But they break, yeah.
How does a watch break?
Honestly, poor design. It's always a movement issue. Something's too fragile, not enough research and development. It's common, unfortunately.
Okay, interesting one. Tudor, right? Often branded as the poor man's Rolex. So would you rank them more in the D territory or better than Rolex?
So no, I mean, they are the poor man's Rolex because that's what Rolex invented them to be, the affordable Rolex. They offer you more value for money than Rolex, even though they are still significantly lower end. I know I put Rolex as a C. I'm gonna put Tudor as a C-, even though significantly lower end than Rolex, you get more per dollar. You know, that's why they're so close.
Bigger bang for the buck.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Alpina. I only know them as the upgraded BMW.
I love the Alpina BMWs. This is a brand owned by Federico Constant. Never sold particularly well. You can find them heavily discounted. At a heavy discount, not actually a bad watch. B+.
Seiko. I think a lot of people, when they're starting out and don't have much money, they always talk about Seiko as being the go-to. What's your take?
So here's the thing. This is a very hard brand to categorize because they make everything from awful, very inexpensive watches to some of the best watches in the world. If I say A, which is where I want to put them, people are going to scream at me because they're higher than Rolex and they're up there with Patek Philippe. But if we take value as part of the equation and the fact that it's so universally loved, how can Seiko not at least be a B-? At least?
Jaquet Droz?
Jaquet Droz is owned by the Swatch Group. They revived an old name from like the 1700s, known for their asymmetric dials. Very expensive, too expensive, C-.
How about Laurent Ferrier?
Laurent Ferrier, like F.P.Journe, an independent watchmaker, super high-end. I mean, that's an A, for sure.
Interesting. Hamilton watches.
Hamilton, you know, they make a couple of models I absolutely adore. It's a great first Swiss automatic watch, fairly inexpensive, C-.
Longines.
Very long history, especially in chronographs. They have the same syndrome that I'm sure you've heard me say multiple times today. They make some very inexpensive bad watches and they make some great watches for the value. I would put them at a C-.
What about Moser?
Moser, well, I'm wearing one, guys. It's an A. It has to be an A. Even if you disagree with me, you're wrong. It's an A.
What about Parmigiani Fleurier?
Parmigiani Fleurier is a fantastic watch brand with a name that gets confused with cheese all too often. Their designs are a little hideous, but the watchmaking is top-notch. C+. If you can get it used, save a lot of money, it's a B-.
And then there's, of course, Gucci.
Oh, is there something below F?
I don't think so.
Like F-? F-. We just set it on fire.
Interesting. Interesting because Louis Vuitton, is on the rise. Gucci is like...
Well, because Gucci just puts a stripe on their watch and the G's, and people think, oh, you see a Gucci watch, it's expensive, it's Gucci. Louis Vuitton is doing work in horology. You know, they're inventing movements, hiring watchmakers, designing unique and contemporary timepieces. You might not like them, but, you know, it's quality, whereas Gucci is...
Branding.
You know, branding. All branding.
Got it. What about Vice?
Vice. You're gonna get me in trouble. It's an American-made watch. Listen, it's not a bad watch. It really isn't. But it's got to be a D because they focus too much on their American-made. It's a Swiss design movement that is machined in Los Angeles. Like, how American-made is that really? Like, I don't know. They argue that it's legal. I argue it's deception. It's a D.
And then Armani, which I would guess is probably similar to Gucci.
It's like equally, they both belong in the fire pit. F minus.
Tissot. I don't know where to place them.
Ooh, Tissot is one of those watches that gives you good bang per buck. Like, it's not a super high-end watch at all. Very similar to Hamilton. It's like far from extraordinary, but it's a great entry point into the Swiss watch, game. $600-700 gets you a pretty nice watch. C minus because their value is great, but D if it was just horology.
What about Ming watches? I followed Ming Thein, as a photographer long before he had watches, and then I knew that he was a watch photographer, and then he started his watches. I looked at them once because I thought the design was unusual, was kind of flashy, but when I had it, I was like, ooh, that feels not nice.
I actually did love Ming watches. They exploded for a time, selling for multiples of their price point. Unfortunately, there was a snafu where they had a limited edition release. It didn't function well. No big deal, that can happen. Customers reached out. They didn't get a very good response. This was a big talking point in the forums. If Ming would have handled that better, they would be a C. But right now, they have to be a D minus. Because if you can't handle customer service, then you shouldn't be selling watches.
Van Cleef Arpels, more like a jewelry company.
A jewelry company, they're known for poetic complications, so mechanisms that don't do anything time-related, but they're almost like mechanized art, two couples kissing on a bridge, or almost like an ornate automata, like a jewelry box. If you can find one, and if you're a female, because most of them are for ladies, then it's an A minus. But they make so few watches that it's almost irrelevant.
Junghans, German precision, overrated?
Not rated at all, I think. It's one of those brands that is cool. It's like a less expensive Nomos. It's like the Hamilton of Germany. Get them at a discount, decent quality, but D plus just because they don't do anything special, but they're certainly not bad. Bulova, F plus. Haven't been relevant for decades.
Bovet Fleurier.
Very similar to Parmigiani, polarizing designs, but fantastic watchmaking. B minus.
Ulysse.
A lot of people love this brand. Fantastic dive watches. Started making in-house movements now. Very fairly priced. You can pick up a nice Ulysse for not much more than $1,000. I'd say C minus along with Longines and Hamilton and stuff like that.
Resence. Never heard of them.
Resence. It's kind of a hipster brand, independent. They do like oil-filled watches with interesting displays. Pain in the butt if it ever breaks. C. Interesting, but not for me.
Well, that was an impressive rundown of knowledge, Federico. Thank you very much for sharing that with us and our viewers. Appreciate you.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk fashion and watches with you. It's been a true pleasure and a lot of fun.
Well, it's also great to see the man in person because Federico often supplies us with watches for our videos, and I really appreciate you for that. Thank you, man.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. And guys, thank you for watching. Don't be too harsh on me in the comments.